Welcome to the Bedford blog on BCTV. Nestled on the picturesque slopes of Crotchet Mountain in the charming town of Francistown lies a 22-acre homegrown dream affectionately referred to as Hedera Farm. At the heart of that dream is owner, farmer, and chef Kenn Archibald, whose finely curated taste for innovative, organically inspired meals makes your mouth water.
I bought the farm property in 2016. My background in the culinary industry led me to come up with the idea of starting a little farm-to-table cooking school. I've been looking for years, different properties around southern New Hampshire, and as soon as I saw this one, I just fell in love with the barns and the lay of the land. People can come stay at the farm, learn about some organic agriculture, take a tour of the gardens. We can pick, we can come in, cook right here in the kitchen.
Although Hedera Farm isn't officially certified organic, the process by which everything is grown here surpasses the certified organic standards that are set by the United States Department of Agriculture, which is pretty impressive given the large variety of produce that is grown and harvested here.
We grow a variety of heirloom and kind of modern tomatoes, hybrid tomatoes. We have a lot of squash, 4 different varieties of onions, green onions, shallots, red onions, white onions, and then greens. Mostly I grow things that I like to eat.
Besides the rich, fertile soil, something else that attracted Kenn to Hedera Farm is its historically rich structures.
When I bought the property, I was told that the barn and the home dated from kind of the mid-1800s, mid to late 1800s. And actually early on, my insurance agent would come through and kind of inspect the property. And he was walking through the barn. He was actually kind of an amateur barn historian and said, "What do you know about this barn?" I said, "Well, I know it was originally built in Hancock and they moved it over here, and all the joints are all numbered and everything." And he said, "And when was that?" I said, "Well, the barn was, I heard it was built around, in the 1800s. And he's like, "Well, I have news for you. If you notice, like your columns are really narrow at the bottom and they flare out at the top, and it's called a gunstock style." And they actually stopped building the gunstock barns around 1780, 1790. And so there's not much of a record of them being built anytime after 1800 in the US. And so your barns most likely dates back to the Revolutionary War era.
With restoration of the house complete and work on the barn in progress, the next phase of the Hedera Farm experience is to put in a commercial kitchen where Kenn can process and launch Hedera Farm branded products.
We have a very popular tomato jam, wild Concord grape jelly from grapes that are grown here in the woods on the farm. We're going to expand into some tomato sauces, tomato salsas, probably do some more preserved fruits, dessert toppings, things like that, conserves, pickles, relishes, things like that.
To learn more about Hedera Farm products or booking a stay at the historic Revolutionary War era barn, scan the QR code on your screen or visit hederafarm.com. Stay tuned, because coming up next, Kenn gives us a gourmet cooking lesson. Then, we pay tribute to another Kenn. He was the voice of the Oogie Boogie Man in Tim Burton's animated classic, The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Well, Mark, what have we here?
We'll hear from the late, great Mr. Kenn Paige. All that and more right here on the Bedford blog on BCTV.
These are all the things that we've grown here on the farm that are going to go into our recipe today. Swiss chard, there's some parsley, sage, some are savory, it's an herb. These little spoon tomatoes. This is celery root, onions, the kogi nut squash, and some garlic. Today, Keegan and I are going to be cooking one of my favorite fall dishes, all with produce that we've grown here on the farm, mostly grown here on the farm. We're starting out with the kogi nut squash. We had to look that up, the correct pronunciation, which is a cross between a butternut and a kabocha. So it has a really thick flesh on the inside. We've already cut this guy open and scooped out his seeds, and really nice dense kind of flavor similar to a butternut, kind of on the sweet potato-y kind of side of things. We've got some ground lamb, some pine nuts that we're going to toast. This is the celery root that's been diced. Our onions, which have also been kind of small diced there. We have some Swiss chard, rainbow chard here that's just been sliced and destemmed. There's parsley, a little of the summer savory, and some sage, a little black pepper. We've got some Parmesan cheese that's kind of rough cut, as well as some garlic we'll chop up. We've got a wild rice mix. It's got a blend of wild rice, brown rice, and white rice. Of course, our lovely spoon currant tomatoes. my favorite tomato, some panko breadcrumbs, a little chicken stock, and we're going to have some more Parmesan cheese that we'll grate towards the end there. So Keegan's going to start out by dry toasting the pine nuts. We're just going to put them into a pan over a fairly low, medium-low flame, kind of a nice even layer. And they're going to toast up nicely. We'll just watch them really close. They're going to get really fragrant. And they're going to get a little color on them. We're looking for a nice golden brown. If they start to like get any darker, you can always turn down the heat or just take it right off the stove. And just kind of while he's working on those, we will start talking about the squash a little bit. That's kind of one of those, you got to watch them closely or they will burn. There's a high oil content in the pine nuts. But the squash itself, like I said, is like similar in texture to kabocha, but has the flavor kind of more along the lines of a butternut. And so what we've done is we've just taken a paring knife and kind of gone around and just kind of opened up the top, just like you were carving a pumpkin at home, removing the top, cutting off kind of some of the guts out of the inside, and then just using a big spoon to kind of scrape out all the seeds and all of the filling. We just take a fork here and kind of poke holes on the inside. We're not really gonna do too much to the inside of it here. We've got a little salt. We're just gonna sprinkle, spin it around, sprinkle the salt inside, just to get a little seasoning on the inside, because we're gonna par bake this guy. A little pepper too. It's always good. Can't live without it. All right, there. So once he's done, we're gonna put him on a baking dish and we're gonna put him in the oven. We're gonna kind of pre-bake the squash. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the pie pan here, and I put just a little pile of kosher salt in the middle, and that's going to help keep it upright. It's not really going to salt the pumpkin at all, but it's going to help it kind of cook a little more evenly. I'm not going to put I'm going to put the lid in it for a little bit, I guess. And we'll kind of let that guy go in the oven and kind of pre-bake for about 40 minutes while we're preparing the filling. And then we'll come back and stuff it with all this good stuff, and we'll put it back in the oven. Everything is going to kind of come together, and then we can just slice it and serve it at the end. So this guy's going to go right in. And right here.
What's the oven set at?
So the oven's set at 400 degrees. We have it on convection. Just about everything we do, we're going to cook on convection. And that is just going to go in there.
And why convection?
It gives a more even heating. The convection setting helps. It has a fan that blows the air around so that it stays kind of nice and evenly heated. All right. So next up, but while he's doing that, we're gonna kind of talk about some of the fillings here. So we've got about a pound of ground lamb. We're going to use all of that in the filling, and then we've got probably about 6 chard leaves here that we've deveined and sliced into ribbons, and then a small onion dice, like I said, and then some of the celery root as well. That's kind of a small dice, and then so once we're done toasting the pine nuts, we'll go ahead and cook off the lamb and kind of just give it an initial cooking. Everything that's going in the filling will be stuff that can be eaten. It doesn't have to be cooked through, and it's just going to be rewarmed in the oven. So it'll all be kind of pre-cooked. And so one of the things that I do need to do is kind of slice some garlic. So one of the things that we try to teach in all of our cooking classes, that we want everyone to have good skills in the kitchen and have a good foundation. So we want to teach people how to hold their knives the right way, how to use the knife the right way, and how to cut and how to prepare and all of that. So and most people, are kind of raised holding a knife, like you're going to stab somebody, right? It's like Mike Myers or something. But the real trick is you really are going to pinch it right in the neck of the knife. You're going to hold the blade between your thumb and your index finger, and kind of hold it like this. It gives it a lot more stability. If you're holding it and you hit something hard, your knife can wobble back and forth. But if you're holding the blade, you have a lot more control. It feels incredibly unnatural the first time you do it, especially if you've been holding it like this your entire life. But once you get used to it, it's amazing what you can do. And the other thing is the hand that you use to hold your product, you want to keep it, and we call it the claw, right? You always want to keep your hand, kind of your knuckles, fingernails under your knuckles. So your knuckle is the furthest thing out. And then you're going to rest the knife kind of right up against your knuckle, so you're never in danger of actually cutting yourself. And so as you move down the product, you're moving like in little hops kind of down. And then as you kind of, you can either rock it, you can chop it, but you're never in danger of getting your fingers in there. And once you get more experience, you can go really fast, and you don't even have to look. You can take your eyes right off the product and keep going, because you're never going to be in danger of cutting yourself. But don't do that at home. Right? and then when you get really more experience, you can go a lot faster.
And it's important to have sharp knives.
Absolutely, yes. More people are injured by dull knives than they are sharp knives. A sharp knife goes right through the product. If you have a dull knife, sometimes it's harder. You have to push harder. You have to really work the knife a lot harder, and you can end up injuring yourself a lot easier. So always keep your knives nice and sharp.
And how does like an average person keep their knife sharp?
So the biggest thing, most people, they will get a knife set. Or have a nice little knife block. A lot of folks do, and they get one of these things, and they have no idea they think this is a knife sharpener. This is actually called a steel, and it's really just for kind of keeping your blade straight. So this is great every time you use your knife. Just before you use it, I'll grab it differently here. It's clean, and show you. You're just going to want to take it and hold it. Depending on the type of knife that you're using, most Western knives are honed at a 22-degree angle, and then Asian knives are honed at half of that. So you're basically what you want, depending on Asian style knives, you want to lay it flatter. A European or Western style knife, like a traditional chef's knife, you're going to hold it up a little higher, and you just kind of drag it along. This is to protect you, so if you hit, you're not going to hit your finger. So you just want to drag it a couple of times across the blade every time you use your knife. So now that our pine nuts are beautifully kind of golden here and slightly browned, we will go ahead and put a little oil in the pan, and then we're going to start the, a little more oil. A little more? Yeah, let's get a little more. The lamb's a little fatty, but not too bad. So
is that extra virgin?
So no, we're actually using a sunflower oil.
Sunflower,
yep.
okay.
So we are gonna go a little higher heat. Extra virgin olive oil is great for salad dressings, and it's great for cooking things that don't require really high heat. If you're not browning something, olive oil is great. Olive oil breaks down really quickly under heat, starts to smoke and taste off. Extra virgin, not extra virgin olive oil, or just first press olive oil, or not first press olive oil, is actually much better for sautéing and has a higher smoke point. Yeah, so go ahead.
Right.
Yeah. So we're just gonna kind of keep that in a sauté pan, let it brown a little bit. You get the color out of it. We don't want like really a dark, brown color on it. And kind of as he's cooking it, he's going to kind of break it up a little bit into small pieces. It's going to get mixed in with the rice and the cooked chard and all the other vegetables. One of the biggest things when you are kind of cooking something like this is you can put it in the pan and just kind of get it broken up a little bit, but then just let it sit until it kind of starts to cook. If you're constantly moving, sometimes it gets stuck to the pan, and as it cooks, it's going to develop a little crust, so it'll move a little easier and it won't get stuck as much. So you can do that, let it cook for a couple minutes, and then stir it, and then let it cook a little bit longer. And we're just trying to get all the color out of the pink out of the meat. It doesn't have to be like really, crispy. We're not really searing it off, kind of thing. We're just getting a little extra flavor.
What's your flame set at first?
So our flame on this one, it should be around a medium to medium high.
And if you're using like an induction stovetop, what do you set it medium high?
So yeah, I would still maybe a little bit lower on induction, because that it all depends on definitely the type of fuel you're using. Induction has a lot more heat retention. You're not losing heat around the pan as much as you are with a gas flame, so you could probably go a little bit lower on induction or electric stove. Yeah, can you go give that a little stir? Break it up a little bit more. It doesn't have to be like in tiny pieces, because we're gonna crumble it with our hands. We're gonna get a little messy here in a minute. But yeah, it's just like, until all the pink is gone, and then we'll drain some of the fat out of it, and then we'll put our veggies in there and get them sauteed as well. While it's sauteing, we're gonna go ahead and add a little bit of salt and pepper. Always good to salt throughout your cooking process. You don't want to salt just in the beginning. You don't want to salt just in the end. Just a good pinch. It doesn't have to be a ton. That's going to help build flavor as well, because salt brings out flavors, natural flavors and things. It's a flavor enhancer as much as anything. And so we always want to add salt to just about everything that we cook, but do it in moderation, especially if you're on a restricted sodium diet. You can cut back on the salt. And if you salt at the end, it's going to have a more pronounced taste. If you salt earlier out, it's going to bring out some of the natural flavors of the product that you're salting. Yeah, this can be made with kind of any ground meat if you like. I mean, if you prefer ground beef, you can absolutely do that. We really love ground lamb. Lamb is one of my favorite things, especially in the fall. I feel like the richness, goes really well with the squash. The garlic, the sage really picks up nicely, moving us into the fall season. It's a little heartier. It's a nice flavor. Of course, beef would work. Ground turkey. You could even use the Beyond Meats if you're a vegetarian, and then everything else here is vegetable. So you can definitely. We've had some good successes experimenting with the Beyond products as well, or some of the other vegetable protein-based meat alternatives have certainly come a long way. All right, it's looking pretty good.
Things sticking out.
Yeah, so we're going to kill the heat on that and pull it off the stove. I'm just going to use a slotted spoon to take it out so that we're not getting all that fat. So you're going to make this a little healthier. We're going to reserve some of the fat to cook our, saute our vegetables in. But for now, this is good. Oh, tilting the pan, we're getting all the fat to drain down to the other side, and then we'll scoop it out of the top here. And that gives us a nice leaner, a little bit of a leaner, healthier product. And then we're going to leave a little bit in there. I'm going to get the heat going again. And we're going to go on a medium kind of heat this time. We're going to saute some of our onion, and then we'll add, once it starts getting soft, we'll add in the celery root. Again, a little salt and pepper. Season as we go, and then we'll saute the kale or the chard until it's nice and tender, and toss in the herbs, and then we'll get everything together for the stuffing. Yeah. It's the perfect sizzle.
So you've lowered the heat?
Yeah, we have lowered the heat down to about a medium. As you get more comfortable cooking and more kind of fluent in the kitchen, you'll start to hear the difference in the sound that something makes when it's sizzling in the pan. The higher the pitch, the sizzle, it means the hotter the pan. And so you can kind of hear if something is on too high or not. And it's really helpful, especially in a restaurant when you're busy. A lot of times you put something on the stove and then you're turning around prepping something else. You can hear if it's getting too hot behind you, because you start to hear the sound of when something is too hot. Shake. And so we're just looking for it to get a little translucent, and then we'll add the celery root in. That's about a quarter cup of celery root, about a half a cup of onion, quarter cup of celery root there. A little pinch of salt. We'll throw in a little pepper. We pre-ground it, but it is fresh ground pepper we just ground today. Give that guy a little stir. And then the celery root's going to take a minute to soften up. But I love celery root. It's really an interesting ingredient. It's very unusual, very ugly. The tops do look like celery, but it's not the same celery that we eat. This particular variety is grown for its bulbing properties. And then inside it's this beautiful kind of creamy white flesh. It's very dense and it has very, very fragrant, very strong celery scent. But it's a lot drier than celery itself. So it doesn't add a lot of moisture to things, which is great when you're using it for a stuffing. I love doing it. It doesn't break down as much as well. So in soups and stews that are cooking for a long time, celery just kind of turns mushy and disappears. Adds a lot of flavor, but it isn't really present in the as a texture. So the celery root kind of keeps its texture through the cooking process. You can also do some really beautiful things in pureeing it, making sauces with it as well. So we love growing the celery root here. It's something that we like to use a lot. I'll throw in some garlic. All right. So a lot of people make a mistake of adding garlic and onion at the same time in the beginning. And garlic has a higher oil content and will burn a little bit easier, a little quicker. And so we like to add that kind of further along in the cooking process. And then I'll just go ahead.
Was it one clove? Or?
That was two, three cloves. Yeah. So one of the things that we like to do here is teach people to use recipes as a guide, and it's don't put all your trust in the recipe. Don't be too concerned about getting every ingredient measured just perfectly. A lot of times we just kind of eyeball it, right? We know what we like to eat. We know what flavors we like. If the recipe says 4 cloves of garlic, but you really love garlic, put in 8. You don't have to. The recipe's not the Bible. You don't have to follow it word for word, right? 4 shard leaves there. It's a little bit more. We're just waiting for it to cook down a little bit. And I'll go ahead and add the rest of it in. This is probably 4 or 6 total.
Yep.
They weren't huge shard leaves. We're kind of at the end of the growing season, so they're a little on the small side. So we'll just kind of let that go for a little bit. Maybe turn down the heat just a touch. You can see if the pan starts browning too much, it just means probably turn down the heat a little bit. We don't want the onions and the garlic to burn. A little color is nice. We call that the Maillard reaction. It's the browning process where things go from being pale to like a nice toasty brown. But it can very quickly get out of hand. And like I said, there's only 2 things you can't undo in a kitchen. Is you can't undo oversalted food, and you can't unburn things. Always slow and slow, right? Until you get the hang of it. So now that's getting there. I'm going to throw a little bit of the sage in. The sage, I like to cook the sage a little bit. Raw sage can have quite an aggressive taste to it. Obviously, everything's going back in the squash and getting cooked through again or reheated. But we want to make sure that we take some of the edge off the sage. So we'll kind of give that guy a little stir. And it's looking good. It smells amazing. It smells absolutely amazing.
Oh my God.
Yep. So I'm going to move these guys out of the way. Get our bowl here. And we went ahead and pre-cooked the rice blend just to save a little bit of time. But it's just, any kind of pack that you see in the store, all the brands are about the same. Finding one that's got a nice blend between the brown rice, white rice, wild rice. Sometimes they're called royal blends, sometimes they're called wild rice blend or pilaf blend. But we're going to use probably about a cup and a half of the rice. So we're just going to go ahead and put that in a bowl. Right. We're going to add the lamb that we cooked here. And one thing that I always tell people is you can't be afraid of getting your hands dirty in the kitchen. We encourage people to get their hands right in there. Wash your hands obviously first, and keep things nice and clean. But it's always best to feel your food, play with your food a little bit. We're going to add some Parmesan cheese, and this is kind of roughly cut in big chunks because we want to be able to get like a bite of the Parmesan. We want a little bit of flavor, get that Parmesan-y flavor in there. We're going to throw in those toasted pine nuts, a little parsley. That's some nice fresh parsley, Italian parsley, curly parsley, whatever you like. It all tastes about the same. Some more salt and pepper, of course, black pepper. Probably a good 1/4 teaspoon in there. And then as far as the salt goes, I'm going to go with another, 1/4 teaspoon or so. And then this is summer savory. It is one of my favorite herbs to cook with. It is an herb that kind of covers a lot of bases. In the fall, it has more of an oregano kind of flavor to it. In the spring, it's more of like a cross between thyme and mint. This has a really kind of a bit of that menthol-y flavor to it. Has that very piney kind of flavor that you get from thyme. Sometimes people compare it to rosemary as well. And it's really lovely because all parts of the plant are edible, not the stem, but the leaves, the flowers, the buds, the seeds, everything. So then we're going to add these lovely tomatoes. We're just going to throw them in whole. And it's nice because when they get heated up in the oven, they're going to get soft and they're just going to have these nice little bursts of tomato flavor. A lot of times when you make a dish like this, we'll mix in some tomato paste. But this time we're just going to use actual tomatoes. These guys just have really beautiful flavor. They're great. They just burst in your mouth. They're just really lovely. And so that's just about it. We're just going to wait. And that looks pretty good. So we'll go ahead and add that over. Yeah. So you will drop that in. All right. So that's going to be a little hot. I'm not going to mix it with my hand right away. So we're just going to go ahead and start mixing that. And this is going to be our filling. We're going to get it nice and evenly mixed. Yeah.
And that was all, you did that with the leftover, what is it called? Oils from the lamb.
Yeah, from the lamb. Yep. Yeah. We did add a little bit of the sunflower oil to the pan before we sauteed the lamb, just to keep it from sticking in the beginning. And then, yeah, we just cooked the rest of those the vegetables and everything in the fat that was kind of rendered out of the lamb. We're probably about a cup and a half, cup and 3/4 of rice with a pound of lamb. It's a nice amount. That's kind of what we're looking for. There's a lot of vegetable in the filling, but there's also the squash that we're cooking it in will be its serving vessel. We're going to slice it into wedges and we'll serve it. And so you're getting a ton of vegetables. So this is really more of a meat heavy kind of filling because your vegetables are coming from the actual squash that you're filling. So now we have that. We will, when we pull the squash out, just before we put it in, we'll add a little bit of chicken stock to the mix as well. You could obviously, if you're going the vegetarian route and you were using the Beyond Meat, you can use vegetable stock as well. This is a really versatile recipe. I like the chard. The chard is nice. It's got a nice earthy flavor that balances well with the lamb. Other things you can do if you're doing the lamb, you can put in dill, you can add feta cheese instead of Parmesan cheese. You can go kind of a more of a Mediterranean or Middle Eastern route. You can add cinnamon or cumin to it as well, depending on what your flavor preferences are. We're kind of going with a more of an Italian kind of flavor. We've got the tomato, we've got the garlic, we've got the pine nuts, and so that's kind of in the Parmesan cheese, and so that's kind of where we're focusing this one. But it really is up to you to determine what is your kind of your flavor profiles, and that's the way we prepare most of our recipes here. We get people interested in cooking what they like to cook. So a lot of times people will come into a cooking class and say, well, I don't really like this. I don't want to take this class, but we teach you here how to make something technical, but give you the skills and the palate to kind of make it your own. So it looks like our squash is about ready to come out. He's got a little color on him there. Over here. Let's go pull that guy off. So what we're looking for is, it's going to be a little bit tender to the fork. The fork's going to go in nicely. It feels like it's going pretty much all the way through. We don't want to puncture the skin though. So it's nice and tender on the inside. So I'm just going to let it cool for a second. And so now we've got all of our beautiful filling here. I'm going to add a little bit of the chicken stock and then we'll pour more in as we go. I just want to get a little bit in to kind of get it nice and moist. And what this will do is also, it's not really going to hold it together so much. I think all the juices from the meat and the starch in the rice will do that on its own. But it's also going to give moisture to the inside of the pumpkin and allow it to kind of steam and finish cooking from the inside out. So I'll go ahead and start. Like I said, can't be worried about getting your hands dirty here. So we're just going to carefully spoon this filling in as much as we can. We're going to pack it nice and full. A little bit falls down the outside. Don't worry about it. We're just worried about what's inside the pumpkin. We're just going to pack it down in there nice and dense. It'll be bursting with flavor here. And we'll dome it up. And then I'm just going to pour more of the chicken stock. Hopefully it'll kind of go right in. Circle right down in the middle. Now we're going to throw him back in. And we're going to let it bake for about 10 to 15 minutes, and then we're going to add a little breadcrumb topping to the top and go for a few minutes more to get that nice and brown. Yeah, so for our last step, we're going to make a little breadcrumb topping that we're, now we have just a couple of minutes left in the oven, and then we'll put it back in just to toast those guys up. So what we have here is just some simple Japanese style panko breadcrumbs. I like it. It's nice crunchy crust to the top. We're going to add just a pinch of salt, not too much because we've already seasoned our stuffing very nicely and the squash itself, and some little bit of pepper there. Just a good heavy pinch, and we're going to throw in some of that chopped parsley from earlier as well. Could be chopped a little finer, but it's good to go. And then we will top it all off with some nice fresh aged Parmesan cheese. I love a good aged Parmesan Reggiano. It is one of those protected cheeses from Italy, and comes with very specific aging requirements, and there's some really beautiful ones out there. I think this is a 20-month aged raw cow's milk Parmesan. You can see like the little crystals forming on the inside, which happens as it ages, and those are just going to be beautiful. So you can get a good aged Parmesan. Just about any grocery store will have one. There's going to be obviously their store brand, and there's going to be some like cheapo brands. But if you look typically in their kind of gourmet cheese section, they tend to have some nice aged ones there. I'd pick this one up at Whole Foods. It can be a little pricey, but a little bit goes a long way. It doesn't take a lot. So, and then to that, we're going to add a little bit of olive oil. So the key to pouring these big ones is you pour like you do oil in your car from the big end. We'll just do just a little bit. There we go. And I'm just going to give that a little mix. And that'll help with facilitate the toasting and browning. So we're just going to get the breadcrumbs a little damp. And then my timer is going to go off any minute now to pull that guy out of the oven. I just peeked in a minute ago, and it was starting to look all bubbly and good, which means that the inside is getting heated through. So that's what we're looking for. And we see some of the juices dripping down the sides. There's some bubbles coming up around the edges there. The top is starting to look a little browned. The tomatoes are getting some color on them. So we'll do this, and we'll come back through and carefully just kind of pack on some breadcrumbs on the top here. Doesn't matter if everything falls off, it's fine. All right. So we're just going to throw those back in and let that guy cook until those crumbs are nice and brown. I'm going to set a timer for about 4 minutes and just see where we are. So a timer just went off. We had it in there for about 4 or 5 minutes. And the breadcrumbs are looking nice and toasty on the top. We're going to pull that guy out. Yeah, I'm just going to set him there. Usually I want to rest it for about 10 minutes after it comes out. And that'll allow kind of the juices inside to redistribute and kind of even things out, just like you would rest a steak. And then everything will kind of come together. Kind of also, as it cools, some of those starches will solidify a little bit more and kind of hold the filling together. So whenever we slice it, it comes out nice and clean. So we'll just let it sit for a minute, and then we will give it a slice. So now we've put our hat back on, given a little festive look for the fall season. Looking a little spooky, a little witchy there. But we're going to pull him off of the pie plate and put him on the cutting board here and give him a little slice. I'll take that off. Move him over. Oh, yeah. He's a good boy. And then I'm just going to go ahead and cut a slice out of this guy and serve him right up. You can always finish that off with a little more grated Parmesan on top, or serve it just like it is. And you've got the beautiful squash and the lamb and the vegetables. Those tomatoes are just going to burst right when you bite into them. It's a lovely, lovely fall dish. And thank you for watching. Thank you for joining us.
To access and download the full recipe for Kenn's lamb and wild rice stuffed coconut squash, scan the QR code on your screen. Then stay tuned for Mark's unforgettable interview with the late, great Kenn Paige, also known as the Oogie Boogie Man from Tim Burton's animated Christmas classic, The Nightmare Before Christmas. That's coming up next on the Bedford blog on BCTV.
I can. You're joking me. You gotta be. This can't be the right guy. He's ancient. He's ugly. I don't know which is worse.
It was, first of all, let me just say, getting to do the concerts live like that is such a, who would have thought that something you recorded and was a movie that you'd actually be now doing it live in front of people, right? So that's already unique enough. And they've done a few others, as you probably know, at the Hollywood Bowl, but Nightmare Before Christmas was the first one. And to get to be in front of 17, 20, whatever thousand people, sold out, I was saying to someone earlier that one of the first ones we did, maybe the first time, one of the nights was actually on Halloween. It was unbelievable because we felt like we were Halloween Central. I mean, everybody had come there, not only for Halloween, but they were huge fans of the film. And it was just thunderous. I mean, it was really amazing. For me, as a theater performer, which I've done most of my life, it's sort of a natural for me, you know. Mm-hmm. And I remember them telling me, it's the bowl is really big and the thing. But I've done 42 shows in a theater here in St. Louis called the St. Louis Muni, they're called. And it seats 11,000 people. That's half the size of the bowl, but that's still a lot of people.
Yeah.
And I've been doing shows there for years. So I thought to myself, wink, wink. They think I can't, that I don't know how to do this. I'm used to doing this in front of a lot of people. And, just projecting yourself out there. But it's the greatest feeling, I can tell you, because because the bowl sort of goes right up the wall, if you will, in front of you. Yeah. And you don't feel like you're that far away from people. Mm-hmm. You feel like you're a little closer than you really are. But it has an intimacy to it, surprisingly. That's great. And, we did a tour last December, a little mini tour, where we did the show in Glasgow, Scotland, and Dublin, Ireland. 2 shows in Glasgow, 1 in Dublin, and 2 nights at Wembley Arena in London with the London Symphony, and it was a whole big tour. Wow, and it was amazing because, again, it was sold out, and it was just unbelievable. I mean, you can't believe, not only for me personally, but that this film has come to this amazing amount of love, I want to say, from people, that you can play these huge places and it sells out. We did the theater there in Brooklyn. I can't remember the name of it now. The Barclays Center. Sold out, huge. So that doesn't happen very often. So to get to be, as you were saying, asking, on stage in front of people with that kind of a phenomenon is very unique. And I don't think a lot of people, I think rock stars get to experience it, you know what I mean? And I remember saying to somebody, one of my bucket things, I just wanted to be like, one of the rock, be on the stage. And I've really gotten to do it. And it occurred to me, especially when I was at Wembley, because in my dressing room were all these posters of Tina Turner and Prince and all these people that had played there. And I thought, kid, you made it. And you only have to sing one song,
Absolutely.
And they were very appreciative, and so was I. So it's a great experience to get to do it live.
It was fantastic to watch. What are some of your favorite musical theater roles, out of curiosity, being a musical theater person myself?
Well, I've been fortunate to originate a few, which is amazing. I was saying Misbehaving for the fact that, not as my only, but for the fact that the characters are us. We, the 5 of us, are the characters. So now when people do it, and I've directed it 4 times, hence, and they play Kenn, they play Nell, they play Armelia, they play Charlene and Andre. And that's the way it goes out to the world, so that's an amazing thing. And of course, Cats was a phenomenon, again, to get to do, and then to get to film the stage version in London a few years ago. So it's there forever. So I feel like, I can't say that I have a favorite, because each one has been such a different e-ticket. I mean, to get to do The Wiz, which was a huge hit, Christmas Carol and Wizard of Oz at Madison Square Gardens, where, so, I'm very, 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 very fortunate in the sense that I've...
Can I ask you really quick, before we run out of time?
Yes.
Could you do your well, say my name? Just, can I hear you say, well, what have we here?
Sure. Well, 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 Mark, what have we here? Oh, look, it's Mark. Oh, I'm really scared.
I love you. You're such
I
a
love
talent.
you back, and thank
Thank
you
you
for
so
coming
much.
on today and saying hi.
Happy Halloween.
You too. And I'll
Thanks.
leave you with my last word. Boo.
Take care, Ken. Thank you.
Take care. Bye-bye.